Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode of The Buck Stops Here, the official Hall of Fame program of NotHallOfFame.com. And I'm Kirk Buchner along with Evan Nolan, and we run this joint. Is that very white of me? I don't know.
Yes, we very much run this joint.
It is true.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. We are the BMOCs.
Eh.
The beermen of Chicago. No, I don't know. The big men on campus, right? Isn't that how that works?
I wasn't sure where that one was going. It's like, I wonder if that acronym was a shot at me and I didn't realize it. But that's all. That's
yeah, I couldn't think of anything. It's like 10:30 at night for me, dude.
Yes.
In fact, I'm thinking it all. So
all right. So yeah, we'll just get right into this. So Kirk Buchner along with Evan Nolan run NotHallOfFame.com, and we've got a major announcement. We've been teasing this for a while, and it's finally here. Votes have come in from all across the United States for the group that has decided who will be the replacement nominees for the United States Athletics Hall of Fame, and we're going to get into that more. We just helped decide who got nominated. All of you will decide who's going to be part of it. But before
exactly right. And we have a new website to get to when we get there. So
yes, we do.
But we have a couple of housekeeping things to get out of the way. So let's get those.
Thanks for reminding me of that, because that is actually very, very important, because we're going to be redirecting people to a brand new URL. Before we get there, someone who might be there one day just got another very significant accolade in his life. Calvin Johnson has become the 21st member of the Pride of the Lions, or he will be, which is, I think, a pretty good deal. The Detroit Lions organization has become, well, it's a team on the rise, something that at my advanced age, I never thought I'd see.
Yeah, it almost seems like a competent organization for the first time.
Absolutely. And they've done a very good job in sort of honoring their past athletes or the past players and coaches, whatnot. They started this in 2009. They didn't sort of overdo it. They just slowly built this up. And there's not necessarily a rhyme or reason as to when they do it, but I think 21 at this point for this organization is fairly decent. Yes, they've been around a long time, but there's been a lot of lean years. And I think this is an accurate amount. Calvin definitely deserves to be there. He was the must-watch player for a lot of people. The reason why you'd switch over to Detroit when they had nothing else going.
That is true. Also, the one who's taught us what a catch is and what isn't. Although we've unlearned that lesson apparently in the NFL.
Very much so, yes. I remember when that happened, that catch, it's the football move or whatever that is sort of construed as. And you just knew that if it was someone who was going to get screwed at that point in time, it was going to be the Detroit Lions.
That's correct. So, yeah, he was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame back in 2021. Still the youngest member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame now, 3 classes later. So
it'll be hard to beat.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're getting close. So he was born in September of '85. Revis in 2023 was July of '85.
Youngest overall currently inducted.
Yeah, youngest overall currently. And Patrick Willis was January of '85. We will go see, actually, Patrick Willis get inducted Pro Football Hall of Fame in a couple of weeks.
Yes, we are going to be there along with.
As you say, and somehow Kirk has press credentials, so who knows?
I don't know how that happened. Maybe I should get like a fedora that says "Scoop" like on the top there and see how that works out. Yeah,
definitely, that's the way to go. So,
of all the bad ideas,
also wear a vest that says "media" on it. That would also be good.
Oh, there you go. So maybe not my Fred Sanford T-shirt.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you never know. It depends. So.
That might get me noticed. I don't know. Might not be the type of notice that I want, but I only have credentials for that one thing. Our friend Jack's got it for the whole kit and caboodle.
Well, Jack's a much bigger journalist than we actually are. So
that is very true. I never thought of myself as a journalist. So there you go. I'm just somebody with a show and an obsession with Halls of Fame.
But we are very, as I often say, we are very specific types of nerds.
We are. We are so specific that we created our own hall that amazingly nobody else came up with it. The United States Athletics Hall of Fame. You hear us talk about it all the time, And finally, we sent out a lot of ballots to some people. We've expanded the voting body. So we have some former athletes, some writers, a member of the Mascot Hall of Fame, uh,
Mhm.
member of the
NBA
Fans
Pro.
Football Hall of
Yep.
Fame in the fan
Yep.
division,
Yep.
seven-time Pro Bowler. It's a solid list of people who come through for us.
Yeah, guy who won the drive time morning drive guys in here in Chicago on the
Mhm.
radio. We have GM of a professional basketball team in the G League. We have coaches who have won national championships, have trained some of the greatest athletes in the country. So it's
Division three soccer coach.
Yep, Division three soccer coach. Yeah, one of black belt in karate who has trained now 4 world champions as part of our group. So good to have some martial art representation. So yeah, we're as we often say, we want this committee to be diverse and for us to be the worst people on it.
I think
So
we've
or at
accomplished
least not worse, least qualified.
least qualified. Yeah, we've I think we've done pretty good. I think next year it's going to be even better
Mm-hmm.
as we're sort of like growing this. You're watching all the growing pains with us, not with Alan Thick. But
So what last year, what we had 14 or 15 voters. This year we were up to 21.
yeah,
So, and we're going to grow it. I don't think we'll ever have like 500, but we're going
we
to
don't
grow it.
want 500.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's a lot of. I mean, I do as if you follow us, I love my spreadsheets. But that's a lot of spreadsheeting even for me.
Yeah.
But no. So regardless, we're bearing the lead here. So last year, just quickly as a recap, we had 140 130 nominees
130. Yeah.
for the for our Hall of Fame. 25 were elected. We had a list of 125 athletes for our committee to decide between. Everyone voted 25 times. We have a group out of that. So just quickly before we get into that, both Kirk and I have a goal of we never want to have more than 150 nominees because it's just too many people to go through for everybody.
Right.
So we're not sure on any given year where we're going to make the cutoff. We just try to make it at a natural point. So this year, the natural point, just so you guys know, coming into this, was anyone who had 7 or more votes, which doesn't seem like a ton when you think that there are 21 voters. That means only 1 out of every 3 voted for them. But again, there were 125 people from the vote for, and you can only vote for 25 each. So 7 was a natural cutoff, which gave us
129.
24 versus had we gone to 6, it would have
Yeah.
given us 38, and that's just too many.
Yeah.
So we have a top 24 replacing the 25 that got elected. So we'll have 129 nominees this year.
Yeah, no reason why we had to sort of do it at a nice round number. We started off that way, but there's no rule that says we have to keep
But
it. Right?
it started at 130 randomly, though. It just so happened to be 130 was the correct cutoff.
Well, because that's sort of like how it came from the votes last time. It just
that's just where it was last time. So last time, I think the cutoff was 4 out of 14. And that just happened to be 130. In that case, just by the way, last year, everyone gave us 100 names. And that could be anybody who is at least 50 years old. So in that case, was born before 1970. Took us some time to get our act together after that. So now this year, since it's class 2024, I mean, anyone had to be born before 1973 or before. So they were at least 50 as of the first of the year. Next year, we'll have a whole new class. Since the class 25, they have to be born in 74 or before, just so everybody follows how that works. Other criteria, just for people keeping up, is that you have to have been a United States citizen or born in the United States, or if you became a United States citizen later, you had to have competed for the United States. So somebody like, I believe Steve Nash is an American citizen as well as Canadian citizen now. Steve Nash never played for the United States. He only ever participated for Canada. Whereas last year we inducted Martina Navratilova, who competed for the United States in many competitions after she left the Czech Republic. So, or it's Czechoslovakia at the time.
And one of the people that was not chosen for this when we put this out, Hakeem Olajuwon represented the United States. Joel Embiid in the future.
Yep,
Well,
Joel Embiid, Patrick Ewing, Jamaican, but represent here. Mario Andretti, actually born in born in Italy, which is now part of Croatia. But he, again, born overseas here. Monica Seles
mhm,
was nominated this year. She didn't get in, but
mhm.
she's another one. So just to give you an idea as to who, Steffi Graf, also a U.S. citizen, not going to ever be on this list because she only ever competed for Germany.
Which I guess that means Naomi Osaka many years from now will not be either.
Possible.
I mean, she is always sort
That,
of
that,
like,
that's going to be an interesting debate for us when we're in our 70s. So,
yeah, if I'm around, no, your kid will handle that one.
so anyway, so we've buried the lead long enough.
Yes. So,
All right. So the way I'm going to handle this, I'm going to go in terms, I'm just going to tell you guys the vote totals for each person as we went down. Now, one last thing to know, I sent out ballots to everyone. The ballots were listed with a picture, the name of the person, and they're listed in age order. So the oldest person, I believe, is Eddie Collins,
mhm.
born sometime in the late 1870s. The youngest person is Rebecca Lobo, who was born at the end of 1973.
Neither of whom got in.
Neither of them got it.
Yeah.
The second oldest person did get in on this. But so everyone could vote for 25, at least 4 of whom had to be women. That was not hard on this list. I think I voted for 7 women. This was a very, very, it's getting to the point where it's going to be easier and easier to vote for women just because women's sports, honestly, in the last half of the, 20th century and into the 21st century are in a significantly better place than they were earlier. So,
And we saw that actually in this, because this is not something, well, all of it, my personal predictions, I wasn't even close.
yeah, well, I think we went through this and I had 12. So we had 24 people.
Mhm.
I had 12 of the 24 that I voted for. And you had, hold on, I have you right here. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you only had 10
Yeah.
of the 24. So just to tell you, this is not our list. This is
No, no, because my most wanted female was not on this.
that is true. Mine as well, actually. Mine came very close.
Oh, okay. I know. Yeah, I know who yours is. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So let's go through this. Stop bearing the lead. Our top vote getter with 16 out of 21 ballots she appeared on. This is her first year of eligibility on this. This is not really that big of a surprise. Mia Hamm, probably the face of American soccer overall. We already have one women's soccer player on the list, and Michelle Akers, who's scored the first ever international goal for the U.S., the first great player. Mia Hamm, though, if you were going to boil U.S. soccer down to one person, she's probably the person. So Mia Hamm was is our first nominee added for 2024. Next up with 12 votes is from basketball, Lisa Leslie. Lisa Leslie gets in, also first year eligible. She was born after 1970. I don't remember. I think she's also born in 73, but she is also going to be a nominee. Next up, our top male athlete with 11 votes, not a first time nominee, but didn't get enough votes last time. Ken Griffey Jr. So won the sweetest swings in baseball. The kid, it's kind of crazy. The kid is well into his 50s at this point. But yeah, he had 11 votes. So he is our third nominee for 2024 joining the group. Next, we had a 3-way tie with 10. We'll start with the youngest of those. The youngest is a first-time nominee, just turned 50 earlier, or turned 50 last year. Maybe the greatest American tennis player of the last half century almost, Pete Sampras. Half century is aggressive, 40 years. Pete Sampras is got 10 votes out of 21. Joining him, someone who we joked last year, we screwed up in such a way that he'd appreciate it. Our first skateboarder on the list, Tony Hawk, which nobody voted for last year. And I'm like, wait, how did none of us vote for Tony Hawk? And since Tony Hawk's whole shtick now is everyone doesn't know who I am.
Mhm.
He probably would appreciate that. But Tony Hawk did get 10 out of 21 votes this time. So our first really X Games person we have here at
Yes.
all.
First of all, what will probably be many as we go down the road. I
Yeah.
imagine the Flying Tomato is going to be a lock one day.
Yeah. We did have, by the way, we did have one person, another X Games person who I expected at least get one vote, but he did not, and Jeremy McGrath, the motorcycle racer. But Dave Mira is up next year as well as a BMX guy. So Dave Mira may be, I don't know if he's going to make it through, but he'll probably stay on the ballot for a little bit, I'd imagine. But he'll be probably the second one here. The last one, also from baseball, Triple Crown winner, won the greatest Orioles and Reds, Frank Robinson. Robinson is here. So that's our nominees 4, 5, and 6, Sampras, Hawk, and Robinson. Now at 9, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we had 8 people at 9. None of these are first-time nominees. Or first-time ballot, I'm sorry, first-time eligibles. We'll start with boxing, and I guess business as well. Mr. Grill himself, George Foreman, is a nominee with 9 votes. Also a nominee with 9 votes from basketball. We had a couple, or I'm sorry, we had 3 from basketball. From the women's game, we had both Cheryl Miller, whose brother Reggie did not actually make or did not get in this year, although
He did not.
And Dawn Staley, who I always think of now as a coach first. She's a very good basketball player, but I think her coaching has outweighed her playing days.
I'd agree. This one is one of my biggest surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I voted for 3 women's basketball players. She was not one of them.
But. Yeah, I voted for one, and she was not them either. So, but she is here as well as someone who I didn't vote for because I didn't want to be a homer. But he was one of my last cuts. The great, still alive, Bob Cousy, who is 95 years old, soon to be 96 here. And again, if you guys follow at all, know that he lived next door to my dad in college for 4 years. And probably he's saying he wants to be at the banner raising for the Celtics in September, or I guess October, which would be cool. And that he wants Satch Sanders there with him would be even cooler. So I hope he's still around to make it sit and everything. But yeah, Cousy is here with 9 votes. So that's basketball. From football, another Chicago Bear. The Chicago Bears have the most Hall of Famers in Pro Football Hall of Fame. We have another nominee joining Dick Butkus and Walter Payton and Gale Sayers. So Sayers is was the first football player we have being added to the list this year. Also from, I'm sorry, I missed that one. From baseball, we have 3 on this list with 9. We have the second oldest player and for nominees, Christy Mathewson, who one of the original 5 people elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. He had 9 votes, so he is here. Also, Greg Mannix, more modern. He had a couple votes back last year, was on the nominee list this year and made it through. And finally, a man who doesn't want to go into our Hall of Fame because no one goes there since it's too crowded, Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra is here with 9, the most World Series wins of anybody in baseball history.
Insane. Wherever he played, he won, and then one more as a coach.
Yeah. Next up with 8, and I also want to point out here, one of the people who got 8 was Otto Graham, who I screwed up. Otto Graham was already a nominee, so congratulations, Otto Graham, you were elected as a nominee again. But the other 3 that we have here, we have boxer Joe Frazier, who unfortunately is probably best known for the Howard Cosell.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
That may be your best impression, my friend. I was impressed by that one. That was good.
Better than my Charles Nelson Riley.
Oh, that's actually pretty good too.
Should I break out though Gordon Lightfoot doing Rihanna again?
Yeah, I think we're good on that one. But if you want to do a Dwayne Gretzky giving an interview, we're good with you can do that. And we have 2 basketball players from very different eras playing the same position. We have George Mikan from back in the 50s, and we have first-time eligible. He actually got enough votes to be on last year, but he wasn't eligible yet. Shaquille O'Neal is here with 8 votes. So those are the three we have with 8: Joe Frazier, George Mikan, and Shaq. So that leaves us with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with 7. So our last 7 here, we have 3 first-time eligibles, starting in with auto racing with Jeff Gordon. It's a pretty Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart were both on this year, as well as Al Unser Sr., Shirley Muldowney, and a couple others. He's the only auto racer to get through. It's very hard to argue Jeff Gordon if you're going to get one person through. From figure skating, or only figure skated here, first time eligible, turning 50 last year, believe it or not, Christy Yamaguchi.
How old does that make me feel?
I know. Also, I believe our first person of Asian descent, Asian American, on our list.
It would be.
Yeah. So she is here with 7. Also here from basketball, Cheryl Swoops, who is a first-time eligible. So she is here with 7 as well. And also from basketball, where we're here, Elgin Baylor came in with 7 votes. Our last 3 folks we have here from track, our only person from track, which is kind of amazing, Wyoming Attias, the sprinter, multi-time medalist from the Olympics. She is here. We had 2 votes we were waiting for. She got votes on both ballots to make it from the 5 to the 7. So she's kind of the last person to go on here, but absolutely very deserving in Wyoming Attias.
Absolutely.
Then from football, our second football player, we haven't had the representation of football has been interesting, I think, this whole thing to me.
It has. I mean, like, a lot of people love the football players, but baseball is really dominating, and we only had 2 football players go through. One
of whom was the last one in Joe Montana.
Right. I mean, yeah, the one who you and I both called was Jim Brown, and he was top 5, if I remember correctly. Nothing against Montana. Obviously, we think very highly of him. I would not have thought he would have been the other one, but
yeah.
With like we always say, whoever would have got in with Jim Brown, if you would have told us it's only going to be 2 football players, first, I think we both would have been shocked. Second, we would have said, well, whoever it is, they deserve it.
Yeah, right. And I would have thought maybe Jerry Rice.
That would have been one I was bigger on personally. Yeah, I think Joe Montana might be bigger on Jerry Rice personally.
That may be true. So, yeah. But anyway, another quarterback is joining the list here in John Elway. So Elway got through with 7. And our last new member from tennis, the second tennis player, got through. A man whose second half of his career was significantly better than his first, Andre Agassi, is here with 7 votes. So to read the list through again very quickly, just in order: Mia Hamm, Lisa Leslie, Ken Griffey Jr., Tony Hawk, Frank Robinson, Pete Sampras, Yogi Berra, Bob Cousy, George Foreman, Greg Maddox, Christy Mathewson, Cheryl Miller, Gail Sayers, Don Staley, Joe Frazier, George Mikan, Shaquille O'Neal, Andre Agassi, Elgin Baylor, John Elway, Jeff Gordon, Cheryl Swoops, Wyoming Attias, and Christy Yamaguchi.
Yeah.
So we have
all
24
names, and here's where you go vote. www.theusahof. Super easy. On the top right, you'll see a drop down for athletes, coaches, contributors. Cast your votes of your 25. For athletes, it's 10 in the other categories. And then every day it refreshes so that you can vote again.
Yep. And yeah, so just by the way, that 24, 7 are women, 17 men, 7 first-time eligibles, 17 who were eligible before and didn't get in. So in case anyone's wondering, I'll just quickly, the people who just missed out with 6, Grover Cleveland Alexander, Earl Campbell, Brandy Chastain, Jean Driscoll from wheelchair racing, which was a very strong showing for her. I was the only person who nominated her last year. I put her up here just to see it. She had quite a bit of support, which is interesting. Janet Evans, who I was very high on from swimming. Dick Fosbury from track. Tony Gwynn, Walter Hagen, Karch Corrali from volleyball, our highest volleyball player. We don't have any of those folks yet. Hakeem Olajuwon, Tommy Smith, Warren Spahn, and my woman I was highest on of anyone, Helen Wills. from tennis, who won a ridiculous number of Grand Slams at the beginning of the 20th century.
All right. Who do I got to know to get Cami Granado as a nominee?
You need to know two more people because she got 5 votes. So, yeah, and as we said before, going into this, so we're trying to keep this number at 125 for next year.
Mark.
Yeah, right. But part of that, though, since you're 24 going in, we also had, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, 8 athletes didn't get any votes, so we're going to take them off as part of this, and we will bring them back at a later time. So those 8 were Jim Courier, David Duval, Lane Frost, the bull rider, Artis Gilmore, Brian Leach, Jeremy McGrath, Sugar Shane Mosley, and Tony Trabert, multi-time Grand Slam winner tennis, again, early 20th century. So those guys will go off for now. We'll bring them back at a later time, at least a year. So they'll probably be back in 2025, at least most of them. So
absolutely. So again, this is a big project for us. We encourage you to tell everyone about it. This is, again, something for all of you. It's for all of us. It is the only Hall of Fame really that is for the people, by the people. And there's no real politics here. You just vote for who you think is the best. That's it. That's all. That's all we want you to do.
Yeah, and to give you guys an idea as to how little control we have, I voted for 3 people. I'll just tell you, I voted for David Pearson, Teresa Edwards, and Roger Clemens that nobody else voted for in this whole thing. For you, hold on, let me see who you voted for.
Did I have any that I was the only one? Oh, I think I did. A couple boxers, no?
Yeah, hold on. Let's pull you down.
Pep, I think you told me.
Yeah, you voted for Bernard Hopkins and Roy Jones Jr. You're the only one who voted for that.
Okay.
So, and even these people only got 1 vote. We're talking like John Force, the drag racer who was actually just very badly injured a few weeks ago. Rulon Gardner, Dan Jansen, Carl Malone, Moses Malone, Mel Ott, Mike Richter, maybe the greatest American goalie. I still think I put Frank Brimsek over him, but Richter's at least a conversation. Pernell Whitaker, horse racer John Velasquez, who I think is the 2nd most wins of anyone all time, or 3rd most wins of anyone all time. This is still a very, very impressive group of people.
Absolutely.
And Gene Upshaw's here too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hoping next year. I think I'm speaking for you on this one too, that we're going to have our first offensive lineman finally nominated, because we haven't done that yet. But
no, so Anthony Munoz and Gene Upshaw were both on this list this year.
Munoz was close, no?
Munoz did pretty well.
Yeah.
He had 5 votes. So he was a couple away, but he was the highest. I think on the preliminary go through I have for the new people to vote on next year, there's a couple more under consideration. We have a center, and John Hanna is probably going to be here as well as someone for people to vote for. But yeah, I mean, like I said, this list of people who didn't make it, just going down to 5: Charles Barkley, Johnny Bench, 12-time world champion weightlifter John Davis, Camper Granado, John Havlicek, Bill Bob Hayes, Evander Holyfield, Night Train Lane, Roddy Lott, Phil Mickelson, Shirley Muldowney, Anthony Munoz, Mike Schmidt, Tom Seaver, Bruce Smith, Al Unser Jr., and Johnny Weissmuller. If those were my nominees, I'd still be fine.
Absolutely. All those who are alive could charge like $1,000 in a meet and greet if they wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
But so because we're going to do this show a little bit abbreviated. Usually Evan concludes with a good, bad, and ugly segment. I've got my elevator up, elevator down, but because we're recording this a little bit late, especially in the Central Time Zone, we didn't record last week. We're just going to pay tribute to some Hall of Fame related names, and some maybe not Hall of Fame related names that we've lost in the last 2 weeks. So we close off with an in memoriam.
Yeah, absolutely. One other piece of house cleaning I do want to say for those who are following along with our beer bets. I was once up 5 beers, up 1, which, hey, we may be able to pay off when we actually see each other in a couple weeks.
There you go. Absolutely.
But
this one's for you.
Yeah, well, we both picked picked a whole bunch of countries for the European Championship and the
Copa.
Copa America.
Mhm.
I was trying to say CONMEBOL, I couldn't say it. And I ended up with Argentina and Colombia, who played in one final,
Mhm.
and you ended up with England and Spain,
Spain.
who
Yep.
played the other final. So the moral of the story is, and we both had 3 out of 4 semifinals. So the moral of the story is we tied. So we'll have to come up with something else.
Well, we do. I mean, I will give whoever, I don't know how they sort of arranged it, whoever sort of set it up so that it was a great Sunday of soccer.
Mm.
Uh, has that ever happened before?
With the 2 on the same day, it
Yeah.
must have. But I mean, they also had to finish because the soccer for the Olympics
Mhm.
starts like now. It starts a little bit early because the Olympics start in a couple weeks,
Mhm.
but because of the round robin play, they have to start a little bit early. Um, so yeah, so they wanted that done ahead of time. So that might have been it, but I'm sure they probably happened on the same day at some point. But I will say they got to figure out security a little bit better than they did. So that if I had a good, bad, and ugly, the end of the Uruguay Colombia game and then the Colombia Argentina pregame were probably the places to go for that.
I guess my good would be Shakira's halftime performance. My bad would be the country singer butchering up the Star
Well, I
Spangled
mean,
Banner all over
if
their
you
night.
sing a song so badly you have to go to rehab, that is saying something. So anyway,
For
all
Ferg, you
right,
can say thank God.
yeah. Somewhere Carl Lewis is smiling. Um,
But anyway,
anyway,
speaking of dead careers, who was actually dead? Not Michael
well,
Simmons.
we'll start with the we'll start with the people who aren't necessarily in our Hall of Fames. So I'll start with the furthest going back, film producer John Landau, who produced Titanic and Avatar: The Way of Water, which are 3 of the 4 highest grossing films of all time. He passed away at the age of 63. Also produced Solaris, um, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Dick Tracy, among others.
Well, I shouldn't
So
be happy about that last one.
I like Dick Tracy. I don't care what anyone says. Yeah, so I was he passed away, as I said, at the age of 63. Um, Said he died of cancer. So um, also passing away, how do I describe? I'll just go with it. Shelley Duvall passed away at the age of 75. She had a tough end to her life.
I actually thought
Um,
she was dead 10 years ago.
yeah, she's
I'm not
been,
joking, I really did. I thought she was long since passed.
yeah. But she probably most famous for The Shining.
Mm-hmm. I'd say
Would
so.
you say?
Yeah, yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely. Uh,
uh,
yeah, The Shining. She like for a brief time, she was like one of the top 10 actresses. It was not for very long, but she was.
mhm.
But what happened to her? Like, did she just go get? Was it drugs? Was it a mental thing or?
I think it was a mental thing, from what I
Okay,
understand. But she was also, of course, in Nashville, Thieves Like Us, which is a really good film I've always enjoyed. Annie Hall, Roxanne, Time Bandits, a
that's
few
right.
others.
Yeah,
So,
Time Bandits.
but yeah,
She's
she
also on
passed away
Popeye. I mean,
at
not
Popeye.
not a
Yeah,
great film, but she looked the part better than anyone else did.
100%. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, nobody ever looked like Shelley Duvall. She was very, very, very distinct.
yeah.
Um, but she apparently, so she had some mental illness. They said she was on with Dr. Phil back in 2016 talking about it. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, anyway. Yeah, but she passed away, as I said, at the age of 75. All right. Also passing away, we'll go a little bit less exciting in terms of overall, but I always enjoyed him. Sicking, uh, from Lieutenant Howard Hunter from Hill Street Blues from back in the day. But I always think of him most as Doogie Howser's dad,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
from Doogie Howser, as well as a whole bunch of other things. Star Trek 3 and Point Blank and Outer Limits. He was in
Star Trek
Fugitive,
3.
Bonanza, Hogan's Heroes, like tons of stuff.
Yeah.
But he passed away at the age of 90.
Long career. Always was working.
Always working. Yep. Passing away at the age of 96. Somebody who has been old my entire life. Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
That's another person I thought was dead for a long time.
So did my wife.
Yeah.
She's so old. She was born in the German Reich. But she was, to say, I think she was 4'7". She was diminutive, to say nothing else.
She was.
She was a Holocaust survivor. So they sent her to Switzerland when she was 10, and both of her parents were killed in concentration camps. Then she immigrated to Palestine after the war, and became somehow like the world's foremost sex expert in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. I still remember her on Arsenio Hall.
She was everywhere. I still remember that she actually was a soldier for Israel at one point too in her life. But I still remember my parents, probably still somewhere in my house, who always traumatized me as a kid. They had a board game that was just out. That was Dr. Ruth's Game of Good Sex. That was just always out and around in the house. And I was always just like, I hope they just got this as a gag gift and never played it. But yeah, so I kind of want to go find that now and just see what it's about. Not necessarily play it, but I just never wanted to know. I just
maybe you don't
as to what it was. But
maybe you don't.
Dr. Ruth was still out and doing stuff,
especially if some of the cards stick together.
Yeah, if that happens, I'm just burning the whole thing. But she was 96 years old. Yeah. Also passing away at the age of 76, Richard Simmons.
Another one with a tough end.
Yeah, another man with a tough end. I mean, the fitness guru in many ways of the 1980s, although not really necessarily a guru, more than a motivator to get people up and active.
Yeah, I'd say that's more accurate. I mean, I don't think that I think the people that he was more helping were sort of the larger women per se. You know, the old, but he was more of a caricature than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, there was a quote I saw when he was interviewed back in Men's Health in 2012. It says, when a king gets depressed, he doesn't call for his wife or the cook. He turns to a little man with a pointed hat and says, the court jester make me laugh, and I am that court jester. Just the way he thought of himself. It's a really good way to see that. But he passed away at the age of 78, or 76, excuse me. Yeah, so he did earlier this year. He had a statement clarifying that he was not dying, but he did pass away from natural causes. Yeah. And finally, on the celebrity side of things, Shannon Doherty passed away at the age of 53 of complications, I believe, from breast cancer.
I felt like she's been dealing with that for the last 10 years.
Yeah, it's 2016.
2016, okay. So,
but she started as on Little House on the Prairie as Jenny Wilder back in 82 and 83. But she, of course,
Jenny Wilder, the famous author?
Yes.
Only a few people are going to get that one, but anyway.
She's probably most famous for being Brenda Walsh in Beverly Hills 90210.
Go. Yeah. Not always apparently the easiest person to deal with, I guess, behind the scenes, because she went from that show to then later on Charmed, and then she left that show. But either way, you are a lead on two very successful shows, especially 90210. People forget how iconic that was back then.
And we've lost both her and
Luke Perry. Oh shit,
Luke Perry at this point. Both of the
Wallings still with us? That's not right.
Yeah, it's weird. But I also think of her, of course, in Heathers.
That's right. Yeah.
which was a great one. And of course, as Renee in Mallrats, which is
Mhm.
another one of those movies that's very important to me. In 1995, I was 16. So Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Clerks, all those Jay and
Yeah,
Silent Bob
yeah.
films
Had a
were
nice cameo in Scream 3, I believe.
she didn't do. She also was apparently a voice in The Secret of Nim, which I did not realize
Oh,
back in 1982. But
okay.
yeah, so she passed away at the age of 53.
Yeah, it's I think it's sort of sad, like when your last I guess 8 years of your life, you're mostly known for fighting a disease.
Yeah.
That's not a good way to end. Hopefully, she was able to. Well, apparently, I guess she went on her own. Reminded me of my dad when I sort of read how, because she passed away surrounded by everyone, that was sort of important to her.
Yeah.
But, you know, fought for a long time.
Yep. So, okay. So going into music here. First one passed away, Jim Rotundi, a jazz trumpeter who played with Ray Charles, Lionel Hampton, Curtis Fuller, a whole bunch of folks like that.
Mhm.
He passed away at the age of 61. You know how much I love these sidemen because it's ridiculous who they
Absolutely. Absolutely.
bass guitarist Tom Fowler of the Mothers of Invention.
Mm.
Uh, also played with Ray Charles and Steve Hackett, among others. He passed away at the age of 73. Um, Cliff Waldron, American bluegrass musician, best known for his work with Bill Emerson. He active from 1963 until not that long ago. He passed away at the age of 83. A member of Menudo,
Mm.
Adrian Olivares. So one of the new Menudos when they came back in 1990 and
Mhm.
1990s. He passed away at the age of 48. And then I'd say the three biggest names who passed away: Joe Egan, uh, the other main member of Steelers Wheel and the co-writer of Stuck in the Middle of with You with Jerry Rafferty, who passed away several years ago now. He passed away at the age of 77. So the two of them grew up together, went to school together, and founded Steelers Wheel. And again, that Stuck in the Middle with You, they had no hits. So they said they needed to be more like Bob Dylan. So they wrote a joke song that they wanted to sound like Bob Dylan, and it became their only real hit.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's why he says clowns the left. Like he's like it, that's Jerry
Okay.
Rafferty doing his a Scottish guy doing his best Bob Dylan impression. Um, Also passing away, Dave Loggins, the cousin of Kenny Loggins. He's best probably known for a song I used to hear on the radio all the time as a kid. I haven't heard for years. Please come to Boston. Please come to Boston. She said no. Baby, you come home to me. That went to number 5 in 1974. Actually, number 1 the easy listening chart. Also wrote Pieces of April for Three Dog Night and Come Monday for Jimmy Buffett.
Hmm.
But he passed away at the age of 76. Also wrote music for Tanya Tucker, Wynonna Judd, Reba McEntire, Billy Ray Cyrus, Alabama, Toby Keith, Crystal Gale, Kenny Rogers, Juice Newton, Anne Murray, a whole bunch of other stuff. So there you go. For Dave Loggins was 76. And then biggest name I'd say from who passed away from music this month, because that's where we are, honestly. Joe Bonsall of the Oak Ridge Boys, member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, passed away at the age of 76. Had a bunch of pulmonary embolisms, but actually died of complications from ALS. So he retired back in January,
Mhm.
and he had been diagnosed apparently with ALS in 2019, but he succumbed earlier this month. So, from the world of football, we have 3 names here: Kyrie Jackson, who's just drafted by the Minnesota Vikings,
Yeah, fourth
was
rounder.
driving home 3 o'clock in the morning. He was a passenger car at 3 o'clock in the morning, coming home, and another driver tried to exchange lanes. A speed and struck and killed he and two of his high school teammates. So they were, you often hear, oh, it was a late night crash, athletes involved, they're probably doing something bad. Apparently there was no issue with the driver of their car, but someone else tried to pass across the street and killed all three of them in the car. So he was only 24. I looked, honestly, they were expecting him to maybe start for the Vikings this year at cornerback, even though it was a fourth round pick. Also passing away, Super Bowl hero from back in Super Bowl, what was that, 47? The one with the power went out, the Ravens and the 49ers.
Yeah, in the Superdome.
Yeah. Jacoby Jones.
Only 40.
Yeah, I was only 40 years old. I don't know what happened. Have you seen anything on how he passed?
I haven't.
Yeah, so he was drafted by the Houston Texans, played for them 5 years, 3 years for the Ravens, and had finished his career with the Chargers and Steelers. Was the wide receivers coach at Alabama State, tight ends coach at Morgan State. But yeah, for one time All-Pro, Pro Bowler in 2012. Passed away, like I said, at only the age of 40. Basically, from everything that came in, an all-around good guy. But yeah, I don't know exactly what happened. And then older from football as well, Monty Kiffin passed away at the age of 84. I know particularly Vinny Losmanuso has often talked about the need for assistant coaches to have a chance to get in the Hall of Fame, or at least some way to be recognized. Monty Kiffin is certainly somebody who would be on the list of people you would think of.
He would be.
He actually played for the Vikings, sort of, in the offseason, but played for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, among others, and then was coach, defensive coordinator, probably best thought of as that defensive coordinator with those Buccaneers teams from 96 to 2008, the height of the Derek Brooks, Rondé Barber, Simeon Rice, Warren Sapp, John Lynch, Buccaneers teams. But he's in the Buccaneers Ring of Honor. He won the Super Bowl title, of course, to them in Super Bowl 37. 2 times college football national champion with Nebraska, where he was coaching when they won in 70 and 71 as the defensive coordinator there. But yeah, he passed away at the age of 84. Of course, his son Lane played Fresno State and was head coach of the Raiders at one point. And Chris is currently his other son is currently the linebackers coach for the Houston Texans. So,
great football family.
Very big football family. From baseball, Jerry Walker, an all-star in 1959, played for the Orioles Athletics or the Kansas City Athletics and Cleveland Indians from 57 to 64. He passed away at the age of 85. Wade Bell, middle distance runner who competed in the 1968 Summer Olympics in Mexico City, won the gold medal in the 800 meters of the 67 Pan American Games in Winnipeg. He passed away at the age of 79. And probably the biggest name overall who passed away this week, American tennis player, member of the Tennis Hall of Fame, Elias Victor Seixas, or Vic Seixas, passed away at the age of 100. Won 77.2% of his games, 49 career titles, was ranked number 1 back in 1954, won Wimbledon in 53, the U.S. Open in 54, and then won doubles titles in the Australian in 55, French in 54 and 55, U.S. Open in 52 and 54, the mixed doubles, French in 53, Wimbledon 53, 54, 55, 56, U.S. Open 53, 54, 55, and the 1954 Davis Cup. So in the middle of the 20th century, one of the absolute stalwart players here in the United States, born in Philadelphia, but he retired back in 1970. 801 wins, 236 losses in his career.
A great record. Absolutely.
So there you go. That's everybody.
That's everyone. So with that, again, sorry for the abbreviated show, everyone, but we're gonna sort of like go full board next week. I'll have a whole lot more, I think, with the elevator, a lot of baseball that I did want to talk about, but guys, it's late. It's late, especially for a man with two kids who has to wake up in the morning. I can wake up whenever I want. I got two dogs.
I have one dog. He's over sleeping on the couch. So
There you go. Because and thank you also from the accounting team of Nolan and Soup for putting it all together.
he's he is a big help. So
I I watch sports with my dogs. I actually feel like I'm going nuts when I have conversations with them. And they say, like, no, they're not going to start this quarterback now, but whatever. I mean, might as well.
yeah.
I mean, especially every time I have to take one dog out to go to the bathroom, I'm better off having the other dog tell me what I miss than my wife because she doesn't seem to pay attention too well. But that's neither here nor there. Let's close off with what we all want you to do. www.theusahof. Vote for your favorite athletes. Vote for the athletes that you think should go to the next step and be part of the second ever United States Athletics Hall of Fame class. There's a lot more also stuff coming on, not in Hall of Fame, a lot of revision lists happening, revising the hockey list, working on all the baseball ones, not baseball, sorry, football, the team ones. My God, I put too many lists together. Now I got to revise them all. What the hell am I doing? Oh, well. Also, the country list will be revised shortly. Aaron James Freeman, who is the person who put that together, it's not me. He sent that off to me, so I have to sort of like find some time to put that up, and we'll talk about that possibly next week, maybe the week after. And eventually, I got to work on the rock list. My God, that's a lot of stuff I got to do.
A lot of stuff to do.
Yes, yes. So, and all of you are thinking, "Wah," and you're right to think so. With that, let's close off. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.